Chris, how's it going? Uh,
You hear me okay, man?
Yeah, got you there now. How's
Yes,
things?
sorry. Yes, all good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Good to get chatting to you.
Yes, you too, mate. I was actually talking about you this morning. I was listening back to one of your um two of your podcasts actually this morning, not just saying it because I'm speaking to you, like, but I was big Seamus smacking.
Aye, uh-huh.
Seamy.
Big school.
Seamy, I done my level two S&C, through Elite Institute with Seamy, and
Yes.
then we done our last week, and then I was saying actually, thought I was listening to a fella podcast. That was yours. I was
Uh,
listening to the one with. It's very good actually. The one with Paul Fisher.
it was good, wasn't it? Paul's very smart.
Really good. I really tuned in, like, and then Paul Fisher, and then what do you call him? David Drake, obviously too. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
David
listening
was
to
good.
David Drake.
I think even you listening to both of them podcasts is really interesting from like S&C because they're both S&C coaches,
Yeah,
but they're both completely different as well. Like, it's very
yeah,
interesting.
and it's good as well. Like, it all comes back to, like, they're in these obviously top positions,
Hmm.
but throughout it, the common trend I thought was the how simple they try and make it, and how they just stick to the basics as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
think that's it. Like, I think the further you go down the rabbit hole with it, like you nearly see everything's really simple with
yeah,
S&C. I think
it
from
is
it's
definitely.
a wee bit more complicated. Is that something you're getting a wee bit more into now, or?
You know what? I've always been sort of, I done all my, like, just as I was going along, my personal training, um, fitness instructor stuff, and then I've done I'm a level one and two with Elite Institute, same thing
Yeah.
as Big Shimmy, and then I've actually started last year the degree with Satanta College.
Right? Is that S&C or is it?
Yeah, S&C, because uh, I done a HND and stuff in sports science, and then went to Preston and done the HND or the finished it in sports science too, the degree. Um, so it's just, just use the time and try and do something each year, mate. Just
And
it's
is that all online, or do you go down there, or what way does that work?
Satanta. Most of it's online, but you go down every so often for workshops. But obviously can't do it the last wee while. But it's very well done. Like, you wouldn't, like, if you didn't go or you couldn't make it, you wouldn't feel like you fell behind because they put so much stuff online for you. Like, so it's
Aye.
really good. Like,
Ours was mine was this year in Jordanstown, and it was like block teaching. So you went up for basically like a week every month, and then you went away. So it's probably similar to yourself. Like,
is that what you done your degree in? Oisin, was it, or you done the
I
masters in it?
this is what I knew my masters, and I actually did my degree in business studies. Funny enough,
Right. Okay.
I'd always planned to do S&C.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just at the time, at that age, I just thought business would be the one to go for, and I thought I
Yeah.
could do my S&C stuff outside of it, and this would be a different side of it if I was ever to open the gym.
Yeah.
But do you know what they say when you do a course and you're not that interested in it, and it's like the history of business and all, like
I was exactly the same.
it's
I
hard
went
work.
to
Like,
Jordanstown. Well, probably, I don't know. I don't know what age you are, like, but I assume you're a lot younger than me, like. But I went to Jordanstown and done the first year was what the hell was it? Property development.
it's a random one.
I hadn't a clue what I was doing. It was like economics and building surveying and all, like. And, like, I would have struggled building Lego, never mind looking at, like, structures of buildings, like. So I was like, nah,
It's funny
not for
what
me.
like, at the time was a good idea, and then looking back, you're like, why did I do that? Like it was random, but sure, it
No,
takes you to a certain spot now, so you can never
it
really
does.
regret it too much. Like,
No, definitely not.
I was curious how you managed to do the ACL as a goalkeeper.
Um,
Impressive.
what's sorry? It's impressive.
I thought that was
Um, well, obviously the way the game is going now as well.
yeah,
Obviously the goalkeeper is the best player in the team now. So,
worst. Like,
I'm only joking. But no, I went to change direction. It's near a year ago, 7th of July.
yeah,
Um, and it was sort of the way the weather's been now. It was heavy rain, and then the sort of 2 days before we played a league game, it was really sunny. So I just went. I normally just wear studs. I'm usually studs
Yeah.
if it's raining, sun. For some reason, I went to blades, like the Predator
Yeah.
blades,
Yeah.
and just went to change direction. Sort of, the guy dummied in front of me, and he was going to shoot with like his right foot, if you can imagine, and then he dummied back onto his left, and I went to push back, and sort of my foot slid out the way or in the way. I can't overly remember, but so I see it happened as I'd see it sort of come out, like sort of nearly dislocate and back in again. And I just knew with the sound and the feeling of it, I'd done something bad, like. But you wouldn't wish it in your worst enemy, like. But
It's just from lads that have been down with me, and like my brother, he done his ACL and he's done both his knees in at this point, and it's just a real. I think the most horrible thing about it is you can't speed up the process of it.
no,
Like you just have to.
no.
You have to accept
And
it to be 6-9 months. Like
the thing for me as well, it was my first year stepping away from playing for Antrim too, so it was the first time fully just all eggs in the one basket with St. Gall's, and it was, to be fair, like, not the. It was probably the best I'd been playing. You know, it was just really consistent in everything. I was able to, all my training, like off the pitch as well, gym, recovering properly, just felt really consistent. And then it's just one of those things, split second, just it didn't go, like. So
what
it's brutal, but
what
the rehab went really well. So it did, Oisin, so I can't complain, like.
So you're nearly 12 months now then? When did you?
Well, got the operation 3rd of September, so good 10 months post-op now, like. So if anything,
Very good.
I was sort of glad to see COVID coming, like.
Like
In that way, just to give it a bit of break.
like one of the other boys, it's down with me. He had done his kind of similar time. He was maybe a month or two ahead, and he had completely wrote off the chance of this year. But now, whenever this kind of happened, you're like, maybe there's a chance. But I'd say it was nice not having to, like, nothing worse than having
Rush.
games as well when you're injured.
Listen, and I struggle badly. Like, just I'm a bundle of energy. Sorry. So I was just watching and just trying to
horrible.
rein it in, and then you're trying to put your energy into, like, be positive around the boys and whatever, and
it's easier
even and then you're just like, God, if I'd have been playing that match, what have I done? All those things, like. So it's just from the off, I got in touch with a good physio that I knew. He's a current Armagh physio, and Shay McAleer, you call him, and Shay used to be with Munster Rugby and Exeter and stuff. So I think, like, when you're searching around, you hear people about, I should go to him, and 2 names I heard was Shay McAleer and Marty Locker, actually, in Cookstown. And then just Shay I knew Shay anyway, and from the off, actually, before the operation, I'd done 6 weeks sort of pre-operative work. So it definitely saved me when I came out from the operation. Then, it was all straight in, just really like heavy leg weights, a lot of single leg weights on just the bad side.
Yeah.
So you're not losing as much coming out the other side, like. So it definitely benefited, because I was off crutches after about 2 days.
I think that lad I was telling you about there, he knew that he had a few months before surgery. So like, obviously, you probably know this, before you get the ACL or before you get the treatment, like, you can move pretty well. Like, if you didn't have to play Gaelic, you probably wouldn't want to do the surgery. Like,
it's a weird one. Like, it's just the instability.
You nearly feel fine. So he was, he had a couple of weeks where he could just bang away. So, like, he got really well built up, and then that stage afterwards, he was so much quicker, and he's so much quicker right now because that makes such a difference to it.
Big time. I was exactly the same. It just worked out well for me. Like, I didn't have any. Everything Shay told me to do, I'd done it. I was off work for 6 weeks as well, so it gave me a good chance to, a good rattle at the rehab early doors too. Like, so it was definitely helped. Like,
what way is Antrim coming back then from all this now? Like, or what's the championship structure?
I haven't really heard. Like, so they haven't released anything yet. I think sort of maybe a couple of league games, and then championship draw stays as it is, we have a straight knockout anyway.
Right.
But it'll be interesting. There's so many. We're a dual club ourselves, so how they're going to manage the fixtures is a big thing as well. Like, because there's quite a lot of Division 1 football teams are hurl too. Like, so stuff like.
Second, we ours just got announced there a day or two ago. So ours is like group stages. We're no league or anything. Just group stages. So 4 teams in the group, and then everybody goes through, but the winner goes straight through to like a quarter final, and then the other one's
seems good way. It gets people matches too. Like, I've seen the Tyrone one as well. It looked pretty good, like pretty intense, like, but plenty of games. Like,
I think that's probably, because I was chatting with boys beforehand about, like, would you rather just do a straight knockout or would you rather do group stages? But see, when you haven't played any football, it's nice to get, like we
games,
could
minutes.
Every team in our intermediate championship at least will get 4 or 5 games, like, which is pretty good considering everything's went on. So hopefully we'll have 7 or 8, like, but
big time, same.
easier saying that now, like, isn't it?
I know. I'm just looking forward to getting back and getting through a match or getting through a training.
You should be probably ready to start right at that time then.
I know, I'd say it straight away. Like, Shay's been saying to me over the last while, like, even chatting, doing the Zoom calls, if things were normal, I'd be in full training and playing, like, so.
Yeah.
Can't complain, like, so.
And what way your St. Galls be this year? Like, would you be fancying yourselves, or
you have to, like, I mean, all we've done over all the sort of, and we had a real dominant spell over them, 14 or 15 years. The last few years, we've sort of a lot of things, a few times we just didn't perform. Last minute goals, stuff we done to teams for years and broke their hearts. So it's one of those things. Like, we're not too far away, and if anything, the Antrim Championship has actually got very really fancy themselves to win it. So it'll be open enough. Like, I'd say teams will say the likes of Cargan, Lamderg and stuff, Craig and St John's, and obviously ourselves will all pretty even. Anytime we play. So
did you find that you had, like, you're obviously then part of all them All Ireland winning St Galls teams, were you?
Part of the panel, yeah, for them.
Would you have had like a kind of transitional year from those teams? That one, was there like a big drop off of players, or was it pretty much the same lads still going? Or
there was probably half and half. The thing was when we were in our when we first sort of come on the scene, 2001, winning championships, a lot of the boys were 18, 19.
Yeah.
So they're in their 30s now. So they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
The All Ireland team probably lost maybe 4, 5, 6 players. And then there's young boys are coming in now, the likes of Owen McCabe, John McCaffrey are in Antrim under 21s. So we're probably going through that wee bit of a transition now, to be fair, the last couple of years. And then the effects, the older the teams got, the more implications of being a dual club. We probably have, I'd say, between 18 to 20 duels, going between both. The only team I've ever seen do it, Slough-Neil, how they do that is crazy.
A lot of players, like, isn't it? That's essentially just your whole team, basically, like.
Yeah, there's very few of us. I'd say out of the, the core group of players, there's probably 4 or 5 of us don't really hurl.
So how does that usually work? Is it like, the hurlers will train one night, the footballers train one night, or how do you actually balance that? So
the way they've done it the last few years is it's actually worked out well enough. Train the same nights. So, like, say if we have a football match on a Sunday, the hurlers will train with the hurlers first, and then they'll come to ourselves. So, like, 45 minutes of each.
Yeah. Is it not the worst way? They just might be a wee bit fucked just for the football after.
So you're not out of the house. So they're not out of the house. More importantly.
Yeah.
So they're just I suppose helping with recovery a bit too. Like, and if you're out of the house 5, 6 nights a week, and boys are getting in their 30s, it's tough too. Like.
Easier said than done. Like, that's I found
for me.
like even this year for myself was doing stuff at the gym. They see those couple of weeks there, although like I haven't been working the gym, but they see not having the thought of like, fuck, I have to go to training tonight. And whenever
You
you're working,
know,
going, geez, that means I have to cancel this and do this. Seeing it
yeah,
happen for a while, it was actually pretty nice. Like you look forward to
big
it,
time.
but I can only imagine if you were doing that plus having a wife and a couple of weans or something, that would
Kids
be
and all, nah, they'd be
hard work. Like,
tight going. Like, there's some boys do it. I just they're machines. Like, and they
I
still maintain their fitness and all of it and flying. Like, so it's crazy.
I think though this whole lockdown thing has probably showed a lot of boys either one of two things. Number one, that whenever they retire, whenever they go away, they will actually genuinely miss it. So it might keep them going for a wee bit longer, or else they'll be like, this is great, not having to worry about this anymore. It's going to be one of the other dreams, I
It
think.
is. And if people are working from home and there's a kid, constantly kids around them all day, not getting out of the house, you could see boys, you could see the average age going up to people playing 45, 50, like just to make up for it.
I think the thing that stops it is just how serious it's got probably in the past 5 odd years.
Yeah,
I think that's
I know it.
the thing's probably
Really,
derailed you boys like.
it has, like, and to be fair, I've enjoyed it too. Like, even when you could see it with the county as well. Like, we were very lucky actually over the last load of years with Antrim, having some really good strength and conditioning coaches. The even come back to 2012, I had Andy Ward in, Ulster rugby captain. He was very good, like, really good, even just because he played at such a high level. We had Ollie Cummins, obviously, was brilliant. Probably underutilized, to be fair, that year. Ollie was in, but I was very impressed with him, and then would still follow him and be in contact with him too. Like, he's I know he's in with Derry and stuff now, and he's brilliant. Like, he just seems ahead of the curve. And then we'll have Mick McGurn, who's obviously a really well-renowned strength and conditioning coach, and he's the real deal. Like, you can see why he has such a such a CV. No, he was in 2015, 2016. But he takes Queens. Queens. He doesn't get involved in really any teams and stuff like. But Mick's brilliant too. Like, and then they've got the last few years it was actually Fenton Devlin, guy from the Loop.
Yeah.
Fenton was very good too. Like, so he was. So I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed learning off them too, and it's something I'd be very interested in.
I think what's good when you have good coaches like that too is that you hope that they'll have a follow-on effect, even if they're only there for a year or two. You sort of hope that what you get from those years will go along a wee bit further. Like, I think that's why it's so important to even get a good SSC coach in, whether it be for 1 year or 2 years. Like,
yeah, something I would always refer back, like, even still now, I do the likes McGurn's programs and stuff, and look into still what he had done, and they're very, very structured and very, I found them very beneficial, especially like, I know I've done the ACL, but like in terms of injuries, like, next to no injuries, like stupid injuries, like, quad strains and stuff, and obviously that's the most important thing, is staying on the pitch. Like,
definitely, like, I think you really notice the difference whenever you properly commit to a program and a good solid program. Like, it makes such a difference. Like, and all
one of the guys I would train with, Mickey Pollock as well. Mickey would have played for Antrim and the Leicester St Galls, and would have had a lot of bother with like hip issues and stuff, and lower limb, maybe wee strains, hamstrings and all. And same thing. He bought into doing the the stuff Mick could give us, and from then next to no real niggles either. Like, so it's massive.
I think you don't realize until you do a lot of those things, like in particular programs, like movements specifically for the hips, like the internal rotation, external rotation, and flexion, all them wee things. You really don't. You start to realize how little you actually do them, in normal life and then normal, a standard gym program. That if you don't, once you start doing them, you really get the benefit from them, because it's been so underdeveloped for so many years. Like,
Yeah, and even Mick was first person that I sort of came across that really was introducing Olympic weightlifting too, like, you know, Olympic lifts to the sessions, and everything was specific to the position you were in, and you know, it was very good. Like,
Yeah. And did you find that, like, did you do many Olympic lifts yourself? Did you enjoy them, or did you find that they
I
were?
do. No, I really enjoy them. Like, you know, I'm. Uh, I thought initially I was going to be. I'm 6'4", like, so I was like, I'm going to be really awkward at these, like, but just stuck at them and just sort of wouldn't say I'm ready to go to Commonwealth or anything, like, but
Yeah.
all right, like, you know, I like doing cleans and I like high pulls and snatches and stuff and all that, like, so it's
They are
um
a brilliant lift if you can do them well. Like,
yeah,
just such a whole body movement, so explosive. Like, they are brilliant, but hard to nail down. Like, does require a lot of
hard to
practice.
yeah, and it's like, you know, what I liked about Mick as well was he was like, and it's the same sort of like them boys you've had on speaking about even sprinting.
Uh-huh.
You know, I've listened to them. You know, you're not talking about a Usain Bolt. You're not going to turn me into a Usain Bolt sprinter. You know,
Mhm.
but if you can get me moving quicker, or um, as long as it's safe, and that's the way Mick would have been with the lifts. You know, you're not going to be an Olympic lifter like on the platform. You don't
Yeah.
want to represent Ireland, but if you can move it safely, and um, you know, you're still going to get that benefit of the triple extension and obviously transferring onto the pitch and stuff, like, so it's
I think it's even good too, just a wee bit of variety in the training program. You know, something
big
different
time.
for a team that's maybe done something very similar for a while.
Yeah.
Is also a big thing, because I know probably a lot of lads in the gym that aren't massively into it can be, you know, a few years down the line, and that you get probably a wee bit bored with it nearly.
Bored. Yeah, if you're just benching, deadlifting,
Yeah.
squatting, like, you know, so it's no, it was good variation too. I suppose it's good to learn from people. I mean, he's talking about Mick was in with the likes of you know, he was with Ireland Rugby for 8 years. He's worked with United coaches everywhere, like, you know, a load of rugby clubs, a load of GA county teams.
Yeah.
You know, he's with Cross McLean when they won the under Tony McEntee. And they actually beat us. He was happy enough to tell us, but they won 3 Ulster titles and 3 Armagh titles, 2 All Irelands back to back. So they went unbeaten nearly for 3 years,
Yeah.
and Mick was in with them. So he's obviously good at what he does too, like, you know,
Yeah.
kept them all, like, injury. Like, what I notice about him is very rarely is there any, obviously, take or give or take certain injuries, but you know, a lot of limits a lot of the injuries, like, I
Definitely.
noticed.
Definitely. What led you to retiring then from Antrim? Were you just kind of fed up with it, or was it just a time to call it?
Do you know what? I see now, even you do miss it. You miss the championship matches, and you know, as much as even the league as well. You know, I miss playing the matches. I always think playing's the easy part. You know, not to say, I make it look easy or anything, but you know, that's the part that's the easiest. It's like that last year. I was there. We're training 5 nights a week. You know, we're training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and this was
Okay.
from November right through. I was just like, you know, it was on 4G a lot too, and I was coming 33. I was like,
So every
just
morning, just
you just fe- you were just feeling it getting out of bed the next day more. And then it was just becoming more of a mental drain. But by all accounts, they've swapped it up a bit now, like, you know, where they sort of double up on the days, do their gym stuff, and then out on the pitch, and then they're freeing up the week. Which, see, when you're going out of the house 5 nights a week, it just, you feel like you've no time to yourself, like, and then
it's tough.
I didn't want to just keep going just for the sake of it, and then I didn't want to just keep going and end up hating it. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't want the sort of, you know, end up going, God, I didn't like it in the end, and that's what stopped me. Like, I just wanted to go, do you know what? It's just moving. It was too much,
Yeah.
too much. Like, and I think people were burnt out too. Like, I think that year, I think about maybe there was a big, maybe 8, 9, 10 players had left at the end of that too. Like, so it wasn't just,
I
um, so it
I
was
would
tough. Like,
I would imagine that, like, there's a lot of county teams that has happened to over the past couple of years, just because there's nearly like a competition of like who can, who's training the most, and everyone tries to one up each other, and it's at the expense of probably the players. That happens.
And I've spoke to some players that play in Division 1 teams, and you hear all these stories, even and first hand from Dublin player, like, Dublin train 6-7 nights a week, they don't even, like, it's like the train's so smart. It's nowhere near what it's made out. Same as Tyrone, Monaghan, Donegal's of this world, like, I think it's the lower down the divisions, like, we probably spent most of our time in Division 4, had brief spells in Division 2 and 3 and whatever, and gone up and down between them. But like Division 4 is sometimes probably the most competitive league, because in Division 2 and 3 nearly you can win 2 matches and draw and stay up, and that's you safe, and you're there for another year. Everyone wants out of Division 4. You need 6 wins out of your 7 games, like. So like every match you're going into, it is a championship match. You're going away to some other parts of, nearly it feels like other parts of the world. Going to Limerick away or something, and it's they're all dog fights, like, so it's the tough one, like, and then as I say, the lower the down, you think, God, we have to do more to get that wee bit extra to get out, and then you hear players just like. You hear of other counties just being managed a bit better, like, and mental freshness as well as physical freshness, like.
That's a big thing, and I think because the whole professionalism is so new, it's there's so much trial and error with teams trying to figure out what's the best way to go about it. I think probably, like, the wee things is to see. I think players nearly been given like individual, you given the gym work to do individually, do it in your own time, do it in the morning or something, wee things like that. Whereas I think probably when you're doing the big collective team sessions, although it's great to get everyone together, but it's a lot of time to add on to doing pitch sessions too. I think though at stages players think, oh, we have to do everything collective, whereas there's a lot of stuff you could probably do yourself if you have the.
I think if you're serious at playing at that level, you're going to get found out if you're not doing it. And it'll if you're pulling up injured, fine rightly people aren't doing it. So, like one of the examples was we trained on a Tuesday out in a pitch. Wednesday was a gym session, but the gym session was collective and it wasn't at 8 o'clock at night. But I was finishing work. I finished work at 4, so I was like, I driving past the gym I go to. Go home and sit for 4 hours, to then drive to do the gym session, and then like I was just like, I could do this either in the morning before work and have that evening free, and it was just wee small things like that. And I think over time it was just going, I have to go out again here. That's nothing against. I love gym training. Like I'm a weirdo. I think maybe a select few goalkeepers that enjoy training. So it was nothing against like the training. It was just like the timing and the scheduling of it all. I think it was just like. I just wasn't enjoying it at the end. Like,
it's hard. Like, I think, trying to have a wee bit more control over it's probably a big thing. I think whenever you're just being told, be here, do that, it makes it harder. But I suppose it's easier said than done too. It's easy for us to talk, but
it's tough. Like, it's just I think now they seem like they have a better balance where they double up on, say a Tuesday night they do their gym stuff and head out on the pitch, same as a Thursday, and then there's a few more evenings that are free to themselves, so it makes a bit more sense. Like,
it does. I read the article that you done. Was it the blog that you wrote? Mad, like, I hadn't read it before, only last week whenever we were messaging each other. Really kind of powerful. Like, what's been your story? People, like, for put this out in the podcast, like for people that maybe don't know your story, would you mind going over a wee bit of it?
Yeah, no, I suppose, like you're saying, it was like it's something you never plan or envisage to happen. So it was probably 3rd of July 2012. Found out my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So in around that time, it was a week before we played Galway in a qualifier for Antrim. So think just really from the off, you're just in shock. And then I was, not that you downplay it on purpose, but you're sort of like, right, he'll be all right here. You hear all people recovering well. And then he went back to another appointment and more or less said that he had 9 months to live. So you're just like, still not trying to convince yourself, just being positive, like just like, he'll get through this. He's going to be one of these freaks that has smoked all his life and will live to he's about 80 or 90 or something. But as time went on, you're seeing him obviously doing the treatment, bringing the appointments, seeing the sort of aftermath of them, because obviously doing the chemo and the radiotherapy is quite taxing on the body, like, to say the least. And seeing them have good days, bad days, and then to a degree you're helpless, like you can't really do anything. You're sort of just trying to make it as sort of you don't want it to be doom and gloom, trying to be positive, trying to do as much normal things as possible. And then obviously then as time went on, seeing them have good days, bad days, and then it eventually he passed away in February 2013. Obviously, and the initial, like, it's sort of like it's a weird enough one, like, you're like, obviously it's your dad, you've seen him really sick, so you're like, in a way you're not glad, but you're glad he's not suffering. And obviously the other side is like, you're devastated, like someone that's been in your life, you've had a really close relationship with, obviously. I was 26 at the time, so I think just, it's just shock, a lot of shock. The likes of coming and visiting, speaking about him, good stories. Even things like people I had played against once or twice in a match, were turning up to the door. So it shows like how much respect people have for him and even yourself. So it was sort of, it was nice. Like, it was a nice touch. I think as time went on, I threw myself literally back into training and matches. I went back to training for Antrim the next night, actually after the funeral, just thinking, I'll just throw myself back in, try and be as normal as possible. And then played a match 2 days later, played a National League match against Fermanagh in Casement, actually. And then that was it. At the time, I was working like temporary jobs. So I had to, in my head, I was like, I need to go back to this job or I'm going to lose it. And then that just sort of carried on, was back training and all. And then as time went on, the worse and worse I was starting to feel. In hindsight, I didn't give myself any time to sort of digest what happened. Didn't even, there's different phases of
much at all at the time, or was it
nothing? Oisin didn't at all. Was keeping it to myself. Anyone that's unfortunate enough to know me as well as, I'm the biggest mouthpiece you'll meet, like, typical goalkeeper in the middle of the crack, joking. That goes for answers and calls, like, so I was able to put on a front. I was going to training, and trying to. It was an escape too, like, you were going to training and matches, and it was a good way to get away from it. But I think, as the time went on, the worse and worse was starting to feel like, and then that was the way for, I think, when it all sort of came to a head. I was like, I wanted to, obviously I wanted to do something about it to get better, feel better.
It's like, I kind of know a lot about your chatting about it. My father died whenever I was young from cancer as well.
Yeah.
I think, initially it's that thought of, that first initial thought of like, you're never going to see that person again. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
And then I think I don't know if it's, you maybe don't want to show any kind of weakness, but you don't want to talk about it. Like, and push it down. If anyone brings it up, it's like, let's change the subject to this. And I think you do, like that just compounds and compounds with years and years. Like,
Yeah, and then I was making mountains out of molehills too. Like, so any wee thing that was sort of, I was, all my close friends were getting married, buying houses, is that, and I was really my self talk to myself, in terms of like even sport, like you're talking about positive self talk. My self talk to myself was really bad, like, and then just gradually was feeling worse and worse. Laying in bed, really bad habits. Was laying in bed, just coming home from work, laying in bed just all night, not really eating, and this was all in amongst trying to, as I mentioned before, like St. Galls at that time, we were in our pump, so to speak, like winning X amount of championships, putting on a front fat in between playing National League with Antrim, going into championship. I was trying to, I wasn't. I think during that time I lost like 9 kilo in weight, just with anxiety, just like making mountains out of molehills, making out things worse, and as you do, like just irrational thinking, letting things really get out of control, and then it was just getting to this stage where, to be honest, the overwhelming thought was I'd rather not be here than keep feeling like this. So I think when that was becoming more and more a dominant thought, and I was just like, I don't want to be another stat, and I want to do something about it. And I did, obviously. Just got to the stage, where it came to a head. Actually, it was the last match in Casement, funny enough, and went out after the match, and as you do, 25, 26. A load of boys working out after the match. Really good weather. It was in around sort of this time of year, started June, mid-June. Went out in a drink. Woke up the next day, really bad hangover. Worse than I get bad hangovers, like, but really bad. Just and over time, I was coming out. It was very. It wasn't even just Dan like with drinking. I mean, it was just like personal, teary, anything was just like you were going through just like a host of emotions constantly. It was like so up and down, whilst trying to put on a front so no one would ask, So the next day I was just like, I need to do something about it, and I actually rang the GPA helpline, the Gaelic Players Association. I'm quite active on Twitter, like, so I was just scrolling, and then I seen there. I wouldn't be big into like seeing signs or overly spiritual or holy person, like, but it's just like they have a number for the southern players, they have a number for the northern players, and it was like I need to ring this, like, and then just kept ringing it and was hanging up. The guy on the other end must have thought, who's this lunatic ringing here, like, kept ringing, and then just had it on loudspeaker and just sort of let him speak back, and then I just told him how I was feeling and what had happened and what it's led me to thinking and feeling this way all the time. So they were able to get me set up with a counsellor, and then that was 2 days later, met him, and then that sort of started the recovery sort of process.
How, like, it must have been difficult initially to kind of first talk about that, or was it just a case like once you started talking you couldn't stop talking about it? Or
again, it was just like when I went to meet the counsellor, I was again fighting with myself whether to go in. I was like, I had the fella's number. I was like, well, I just text and make up an excuse, couldn't make it, and then eventually went in, and turned out he was into Gaelic football, and spoke for about 55 minutes about football, and then the last 5 minutes just threw in how I was feeling and what had happened, and sort of wanted to do something about it. And then each time I went back, each week I was saying more and more. And then in between that I tried medication, went to the doctors, tried medication, and it didn't overly work for me, to be fair, but I know people it's worked really well for. It was affecting more my sleep. I was really wide awake at night, and then really drowsy nearly during the day. So I was like, I need to try and do it without medication. So I tried a thing called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
And it really helped in terms of managing irrational thinking. You're making out like, it's okay to have a bad 20 minutes in a day. That doesn't make it a bad day. That's a bad 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like a thing in a match, as well, I was really hard on myself if I misplaced one kick out, or it was really over the top hard on myself. So I think it was just being being kinder to myself. First of all, speaking better to myself, not crucifying myself really for any wee mistake, and then just from there, it got better. And obviously, a big thing that was never really prescribed is exercise too. Like, the benefits of exercise, any way, shape, or form, like, is massive too. Like, and gradually, and from then, like, the last few years have been really good. Like, so, I suppose the idea about speaking about it now, obviously, like, I didn't know that about yourself as well, Oisin. So,
Yeah.
like, you hear people talking about mental health problems or an issue that leads to mental health problems, and it's like, not everyone's going to have an addiction problem. They're not going to have financial or worries or relationship breakdowns, but nearly everyone has lost a parent or will lose a parent at some stage in their life. So, I felt that if I could sort of say what I went through, how I felt, and then show that, with a bit of help and sticking with it, that you can actually come out the other side and feel even better than you did before.
Yeah.
Not saying that, I feel great now that my dad, I don't think you ever get over it, but you just learn to live with it a bit better. And, you're much more rational thinking. I'm just a much more positive person to myself, because outwardly nobody would have known, you know.
You find a good way to hide it, like.
I was really good at doing that, which was probably a worrying sign, because people say, "What signs would you look out for?" And you're like, I know how good people can be at hiding it and putting on a mask, because that's exactly what I done. And I just, being from West Belfast, I just felt that, constantly, well, the suicide rates in men in particular in West Belfast, North Belfast, and obviously across the province, I was like, if somebody can relate to
Yeah.
myself, and then that could be their kickstart to go, do you know what, he went and got help, so why can't I? And that was the idea behind it.
Yeah, like, I can't remember who it was I heard speaking, but they were chatting about mental health, and they were saying that, you should get to the point where you can talk about mental health in the same way you can talk about physical health. So, like, like,
Okay.
say if I have a day where, like, say yesterday, bit of anxiety, I wasn't feeling great, and
Mm-hmm.
day before 100%, day before 100%. Same way, like, someday you can just fucking feel sick. You can get a 24-hour bug and feel a wee bit shitty,
Yeah.
but you're happy enough to chat about that and tell people. But sometimes you're not as willing to talk about, the day where maybe the mental health isn't as good. And I think it's trying to get
Yeah.
to the stage where, like, it's not taboo and it's normal for people to be able to say that, because I think, you again, a thing with men, you don't want to show that sign of weakness. Or I think too, when you know that there's so many people going through things that are probably a lot worse than yourself, you don't want to
Yeah.
complain.
I know.
That makes it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and I always say to people, if it's big enough to be causing you like stress or a bother, then it is a big deal. Like, it doesn't matter it doesn't have to be, grief or whatever it may be. If it's something in work, there's people coming to me saying they're getting a hard time in work, or, different things, and they're like, that sounds stupid, but they're like, if you're in work, you're spending 8 hours a day in there.
Yeah,
So if you're not enjoying it, or you're getting a hard time, or whatever it may be, then it's a big deal, because that can materialize. You bring it home to your home life, and then you're talking about it all the time, and then next minute it can consume you. And it doesn't have to be like, a big debt, or whatever. Like, so, as you say though, it's trying to make it as normal to speak about
yeah,
a mental health problem than a physical, because we were talking earlier about injuries. We're quick enough to speak about physical injuries, And I know different teams and stuff have done things over the last few years, like and even Ireland Rugby have a thing like where they have a tackle your feelings app, so you can like record it and how your players feeling on a particular day or um, how they're feeling, because if we're talking about sport and GAA in particular, like if you're going to go into a championship or a big game, you want to make sure your players in particular are feeling all right, obviously mentally, because that's where your decision making comes from, and it's probably the most important, nearly one of the most important parts of the game, and if that's off, then the rest of it sort of goes to
Yeah.
the wayside, so it's, and again, Irish men seem to be the issue too,
I
we're
think that,
very quick.
like, I was reading, I put up a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, I think about coronavirus. I was looking at like death stats from drugs and then suicide, and I actually couldn't believe the number of suicide deaths. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but it was it was crazy. Like the amount of people that were dying from suicide in a year, 1 year alone, and
Ah,
it's very terrible.
I know.
Terrible for plastic. Why do you think that is, particularly in Northern Ireland? Like,
Uh, it's a hard one to explain. Like, it's just like, obviously the legacy of coming out of the troubles has to have some bearing on it. A lot of places are in deprivation or in poverty. Opportunities in terms of like, jobs, housing issues, and all. And obviously, like, listen, drugs is becoming a big thing in our society nowadays. You know, people between taking the drugs and the downers from it, or running up big debts and not being able to pay it, and if people feel like they've no other way out, or the likes of, I know social media gets a bad light. Has it to do with social media, or it probably has a bearing to a degree. Like, you hear people saying about the comparisons, but it's also pros of social media too. Like, is you can access a lot more things online. You can get the helplines. You can read articles. You can, it might not be, you just, that could be helping somebody build up the courage to go, do you know what, I'm going to make that call then. you know um so it's a tough one, like, for such a small place, really, in terms of um population size. Sorry, the amount of suicides is crazy. It's sad, like, that's something that hopefully over time, you know uh, even with people saying about the coronavirus pandemic, um that there could be another pandemic on the back of it, in terms of people's mental health, losing jobs and housing and whatever it may be, on the back of it. So it's, hopefully the powers to be can fund the people who want to help, and a lot of mental health charities and stuff who do good work, but need obviously the funding to help them out.
like if you were chatting to someone, whether they be like 14, 24, 34, and they're kind of this, the same thoughts as yourself at that time, or maybe, not as bad or maybe worse, what would, what would you say the first steps are for them being that same kind of mindset of not want to kind of show the
Talk
weakness?
about it.
What would be the
Um,
steps like?
like, again, I'm not like a qualified expert or something. I've done all this sort of on like a shared experience, like, as opposed to expert. So, like, I've always said to people, like, have somebody, and everyone has them, somebody in your life where you can go, do you know what, I can go to him or her about anything. That doesn't have to be a parent, or because most parents will worry sick then.
Yeah.
If it's a close friend or someone within your club or your team, or you work with, have someone, because see, even just saying it out loud, sometimes that's all you need, to say it to another person. You're like, gee, got that off my chest, and you hear, a problem shared is a problem halved as well. So,
Yeah. I was like,
that,
I was chatting about in that last podcast, or one of the last ones, about, I had built up this anxiety, and then as soon as I talked about it, just like went away.
yeah, I know it's and again, sometimes that's all somebody needs, and they might need to go to a counsellor or a GP, or a mental health professional. It might just be speaking to a friend, just to go, hear something being said back and go, right, okay, you know, a bit of rationale. But I think being, you know, speaking and going and seeking the help if you're not feeling well, or if you think it's getting to a stage where you're having, you know, thoughts of wanting to not be here, basically, you know, go and seek that help, because it's, you know, it's more common than people think. I think it's something like, you know, 70% or 75% of people that go to a GP is about a mental health problem and not just a physical problem. So it is normal to feel that way, just with the pressures of life, regardless of what it is. I think just, again, speaking out, you know, having good habits, try and exercise, try and eat as best you can as well. Because I mean, if you eat shit, you're gonna feel like shit as well. Like, so, and it's all simple stuff. Like, but I mean, that all it's like we were speaking about, even like stuff in sports. It's all the small things lead to the bigger gains, you know. And slowly but surely, you're like, you know, I would say to people like, all those professions that I went to, between a counsellor, a GP, and a CBT therapist, was what exercise do you do? You know, that's the first thing they ask. And I don't mean it doesn't have to be like a strength and conditioning session or a HIIT session. It can be putting your earphones in and going for a walk. You know, and you feel so much better after it.
Like, I've seen, you know, from coaching people, like the majority of ones that come down to my gym are, you know, they're just everyday people. Like, they're not all Gaelic people, and you know, you'll see them coming down, and when you get to know people, like, you know, right, they're in bad form or they're in good form, and you get chatting to them, and they'll be stressed from work, and, you know, 1 hour where they just go and train and don't think about it, and they leave and they feel, you can tell, just they feel so much better now.
Spring in their step nearly, yeah.
They might go home and it might be a different story or whatever, it might happen the next day, but the fact that you get that instant kind of release from it is powerful. Like, and
yeah,
you know, if
I noticed it myself even over the years. Just even I prefer going to the gym first thing in the morning before work, and it nearly sets you up for the day. You nearly actually go into work in really good form, and it's very rarely do you then, even during this like, you know, the obviously the coronavirus and being working from home, you know, in the mornings I would go for a walk. Me and Maria, my other half, would go for a walk before we'd even log on our laptops or whatever it is. It just puts you in good form then, and then you're just like, right, okay, and then you just get in the habit of doing it. Like,
I think it's kind of a domino effect too, of like, if you know, if you start the day off well with one thing, you'll do probably the next thing well and the next thing well. Whereas if you start it badly, you know, you wake up late, maybe have a fucking couple of sausage rolls for breakfast.
Although when you say it out loud, that is the dream. Like, but I know what you mean. Like,
but get up. You know, the knock-on effect of both of them, you know, happens more than people think. Like, I think, as you say, training or doing something first thing in the morning, whatever it is
sets you up well for the day. Like,
it definitely is. Like, what do you think? You know, if you're looking at, I guess, within maybe GA clubs and even just in general Northern Ireland, you know, like what solutions do you think? I know you said you're not an expert, but what solutions do you think would be good to put in place for, you know, to create more opportunities for people to speak and things to become easier? You know, do you think there's anything that could be done maybe a wee bit better, or any things that could be put in? Say, if I'm trying to implement something for our Gaelic club here.
I think just even like, you know, first of all, like GA clubs now, they're starting to move in the right direction. Most clubs now have like health and wellbeing officers or forums, and you see more and more of them having nights for like raising awareness, whatever it may be. But I think just creating like a culture in the club. You hear that word all the time, you know, we're creating a culture, but where people can go, do you know what, I'm not feeling great here, like, you know, as opposed to somebody going, wake up, give yourself a shake. And, you know, as you said earlier, if you're feeling sick, somebody be like, oh, go home and all, you know, take it easy and, you know, come in the next day. Whereas if you said, listen, I'm not had a bad day at work, or listen, I'm getting tight in my personal life, be like, wise up, you know, that's the way we are as people, like as a race, I think. I don't think it's malicious. I just think it's like just the Irish sort of way to be about. What's sorry?
It's just that kind of get on with it mentality, like.
And it's like sometimes you just need to pump the brakes to go, you know what, I need to sit this one out, and then the next day you may come back and it's probably the best thing you do is sit a session out or whatever it may be. But I think creating them environments where it's okay to speak to people, I think in work and stuff, I've done it. It's a mental health first aid, where you can sort of look out for people and sort of see signs, or somebody comes in from a heavy weekend, or you maybe notice there's something about them. It just gives you wee sort of tips or helps to go, you know what, he's not himself or she's not herself. Or
like those sort of courses are useful, do you think? Or
definitely, like they're
which ones would
they're hat.
if you know any off the top of your head?
We done one through work. It was just mental health, literally as blunt as mental health first aid at work.
Mhm.
The at the time you're like, oh, this is heavy material, like, but it was more the signposting, for people to come, or for you to even look out for people. Now you don't have to walk around checking in with everyone, like you're a policeman or something, like. But if you're just sort of keeping an eye out for people, and even if it's just having a cup of tea with somebody or whatever it may be, you might let something out to the bag, sort of thing, and then you can go, like, if you ever need to speak, you know where I am, and there's help there. And I think a lot of people ultimately, when they get that stage, it's mostly a cry for help. They're looking help.
Yeah.
It's just, do they have, I would always say to people, have the courage to go, do you know what, I'm not all right, and I'm going to go and do something about it. Because you think of the aftermath you would leave behind, not even just your family, but your friends and your, say, like in GA terms, your club mates or whatever it may be. Like, so we say to seek the help when it's needed. Go to your GP. They can signpost you to counselling, and hopefully, like, on the back of this, because it's shown that governments can produce a lot of funding when it's needed, that they can produce the funding for mental health services, where there's more of them all over the country, that it's not just, I have to go to Belfast for it, that it can be in Derry, that it can be in Newry, it can be all over, where people can go. I can go there and actually get help, and I can, you hear waiting lists. I couldn't get a counselling appointment for 6 months. I mean,
Yeah.
some people don't have a day. I'm not saying that, if it can be even reduced, where you go, do you know what, I can get an appointment in 2 to 3 weeks,
Yeah.
or 4 weeks, whatever it may be, even shorter, even better, obviously, if it's a week or 10 days. But I think it obviously, we can beat the drum all we want, but it comes from the powers above us to,
Yeah.
to do what they do, like.
Yeah, I think it's important to have conversations about it, like, and make it more normalized to speak about. Like, I think that's why it's important to talk about it in podcasts and whatever. I think it's good coming from someone like yourself that's played inter-county, and people can relate to that a wee bit more. Like,
And as well, what I say is, like, apart from working, like, if you're training or playing on a club team, even, or say a club team, you're sitting beside boys in the change room 4, 5, 6 hours a week, going to play matches. I think just getting to knowing what they're up to outside of work, or as I say, in a sort of constructive way, making conversation with people,
yeah,
keeping an eye out for people. And it's not always, which people probably learned with myself, it's not always the quiet ones. You're always taught from the way, it's like in school, don't be leaving anyone sitting on their own, and
yeah,
keep an eye out for the ones that are quiet. But sometimes they're the happiest people, just content. Sometimes it's, exhibit A, the mouthpiece, are the one that's always joking, that's deflecting away. So
yeah,
it's just keeping an eye on your mates and making sure that they know that you can, the people there that care about them, and that you can come and speak, like.
yeah, yeah. That's an hour of your time I've taken up. I think that was a brilliant conversation. Like, I really enjoyed that.
Me too, Oisin. Thank you.
Because that was good.
No, that's right.
I hope I fucked it up.
Caffeine was kicking in there. I was just.
You're getting going. You could go for another. You could chat for another hour or two about all that stuff, like, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, and as I say, that's the reason, and I done it or have spoke about it and continuously speak about it is because you want to normalize the conversation. You know, and I think even in GA terms, something that just came to my head is like, you know, even for managers and coaches, and I've stood and watched managers, especially juvenile or, you know, underage, never mind adults, where it's sort of, you know, expected to a degree where like kids might be escaping. You know, you don't know what household people are coming from. You don't know what sort of upbringing they're having. You don't know what their parents are like or not like. They're going to training, they make a mistake, some coach berates them and tears into them. That could be the tipping point where they're thinking, God, leaving the house, God, I'm getting out of this for an hour. Or even as an adult, you know, as a male, or sorry, as a male, as a, you know, playing senior football or whatever it may be, you're like, getting out of the house away from this, or, you know, if it's a gambling problem, I don't have to think about it. If it's, you know, work or relationship breakdowns, whatever it may be, I'm going to training here and getting. I'm not saying we'll have to tiptoe around people, or if people, but it's just sort of going. Make managers as well. Make sure that you're approachable. That you're not tipping somebody over the edge when ultimately they're going to that session for an escape. So I think it's just it's getting that balance. And I don't mean like if you make a mistake during a match, I don't mean tiptoe around people either, where it's like you can't say anything in a way sort of society has went. But I think just keep an eye out for your players and your teammates too, like, because if you're turning into them, that might just be something to tip them over the edge, like, you know.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to have that bit of balance in it and understand that you don't know everything that's going on, like.
You don't, and you'd be surprised how many people, even people you think you've known for 10, 15 years sitting at a change room, you don't know what issues they have, like. So
and how quick things can change too for people, like.
Big time.
Yeah. So if anybody kind of wants to see more about like your articles and the blog and even just generally, like where can people see most of that stuff?
So like any of the talks and all that, anytime I've been asked to go is basically just the GA clubs or schools. As I say, a lot of people will relate to it, either they have already or at some stage. And then on Instagram, it was actually during when I done my ACL, I was like, do you know what? I came across help online. So I created the page, you know, Head Health Matters. And the sort of thinking behind it was for 20 plus years, all that mattered to me was physical health, you know, playing, trying to be as fit and trying to be the best goalkeeper I can. And I suppose sometimes it goes to the wayside of, you know, it's so important that our head health matters too. You know, if it's not right, then as I said before, the rest just goes to the side. So I just use it on Instagram. You know, it's not really blogging, it's more just sharing, you know, contact numbers, whatever it may be, good, you know, charities, mental health organizations, or people that are doing really good stuff themselves. So just try and share it. And sometimes people will be like, you know, or get in contact and just pass them, point them in the right direction, as I say. The professionals that are, you know, trained in that field, try and help out, like. But as I say, all I done it is for a shared experience, because say most people either have or they will go through it at some stage.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. Like, and I think it's a lot easier for people to see it from someone like yourself, someone that they can relate to, than, you know, whether it be a big professional page for a certain, you know, mental health company or something. It's hard to relate to that sometimes. Like, whereas if it's someone that's like yourself, it's a lot easier. Like, definitely.
Yeah.
Look, I'll let you go there. I really appreciate
you
talking and being open, like, because I do think that
no problem.
I think it's important, like, whether one person listens to it or, you know, 1,000. I think it's important to people out there, especially the particular people who be listening to it, like.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, as I say, I'm not an expert, but if anyone was struggling or had an issue, like, you know, I've no problem, speaking to them, or you can message me even on Instagram or social media, and can try and point you in the right direction. And it might not be somebody yourself; it might be somebody. God, that all sounds a bit familiar. A friend or family member, like so. Yeah. I just want to say thanks for having us, and it was good chatting to you.
No problem. No, I really enjoyed it. I'll put all your information on the podcast and stuff, and hopefully we'll get it up soon enough. This is a podcast in a while. This is the comeback podcast. It was a good one.
It's the comeback. It's like my comeback to playing here as well.
Big year.
Big time.
Hey, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
No problem, Oisin. Thank you.
All right. Speak to you soon. Thanks. Bye.
See you later, man. Bye bye.